Welcome to Coffee with the Pastors. This time each month when you are invited to grab a beverage of choice and perhaps even more importantly, to hear us talk more informally about some of those things that you may have heard about or read about that are going on in the church. And so here we are. Pastor Dan, when I sent you the reminder about Coffee with the Pastors, I titled it, "And Then There Were Two."
And then there were two.
Yes. Yeah.
A lonely feeling.
Which is yeah. I mean, we're blessed. We've got Pastor Jim on staff, and we are blessed certainly with a lot of retired pastors that have been helping us out, and involved in a variety of different ways. I mean, Pastor Burton Everest and Dr. Norma Cook Everest, and they've been doing the Bible studies and doing some preaching, and Tom Detmer's going to do some Wednesday Night Alive and preaching. So we're very fortunate with the depth and breadth of folks that we have at Trinity. But for Coffee with the Pastors, it's you and me, right?
That's right. That is right.
Yeah.
Well, and like we've been talking about, right? I mean, it is really sad to see Kevin leave our staff. We're obviously excited for his new call, but it is funny that both you and I have been at Trinity long enough that we've actually done several pastoral staff transitions, right? So we do know a little bit about how this goes, even so. And yeah, you're absolutely right. We have some fantastic retired pastors and other very capable people that are stepping up in big ways, and that's really, really cool and really good.
Yeah. We've done this before, and we know God is good through it all. So,
That's right.
but this Saturday is the big event, right? Saturday afternoon is the bishop of Pastor Kevin Jones to be installed as the bishop of the Northeastern Iowa Synod. And so an exciting time for us. Some people don't realize that we were asked to host this like long before we knew that Kevin was even going to be the bishop.
Yeah.
And so it was an honor and privilege for us as a congregation to be asked to host it. And then it's like doubly amazing to be having it, being Kevin that is going to be our bishop. And then, Bishop Eaton, the presiding bishop of the ELCA, will be with us, and we've got the Wartburg Choir. So yeah, an awesome opportunity to be in person with those folks, or also to join us online. Isn't that right?
Yeah, exactly. It's an incredible honor to host this kind of thing. The last time that we had a bishop's installation in Northeast Iowa was, I think, 1992 or 93, right in there. And it was actually at Luther College. It was at the Center for Faith and Life at Luther College. So yeah, it was an honor to be asked over 2 years ago now by the Synod Council to host this service. I think it's a cool recognition of not only kind of the way that our Synod thinks about its churches and thinks about its people, but for Trinity to be asked to host is really an honor and says something about our sense of connection to the wider church. And yeah, it's going to be a fantastic worship. It will not be an hour. I will tell you that. It is not going to be our typical 50 to 60 minutes. It's going to be probably closer to 2 hours because of all of the music and all of the just the cool liturgy and special pieces that go with the bishop's installation. But it is open to anybody and everybody that wants to come. We're going to, of course, ask people to wear masks and that kind of thing, just like we're doing with everything else right now. But anyone can come and be a part of this worship. And I would guess there will be people from across the Synod and maybe even beyond that will come to worship for this really, really unique service.
Yeah, it is quite an honor and an exciting time to think about. But and we are living in exciting times at Trinity in a variety of different ways, because even though, as I said, it's you and me, it's not you and me, because we keep bringing on more and more new staff And so I thought it would be really fun for us, not only today, but also perhaps in the months ahead, to kind of get a chance to introduce some of these new staff members that are joining us. And I thought today we could start out with the custodians. We've got two new custodians, Dave Smith and Emma Sjostrand, who are doing a fabulous job for us. And so how about if we just invite them to join us on this Zoom now?
Sounds good. Let's bring them on.
And here they are, David Smith and Emma Sjostrand. Welcome. We are just so thrilled to have you joining our team here at Trinity. You're doing a marvelous job. And this Coffee with the Pastors has a long history of kind of giving people a chance to get to know who is on our staff as well as members. And so I thought this would be an opportunity for people to hear a little bit more about you. So maybe we'll start with Dave, because Dave, you've been with us the longest at Trinity, haven't you? When did you start?
I started at the end of May, I believe it was.
End of May. All right. Well, you are a seasoned professional now with us.
Yeah, you would think so.
Oh, yeah. So tell our folks a little bit about yourself, where you came from, and
Okay.
a little bit about you.
I've been here in Mason City all my life. I've had a used car dealership for 30 odd years and a towing service. Last year, I retired from all of that, mainly probably because it wasn't doing as good as it used to, and the pandemic kind of slowed things down quite a bit. So it was a decision just to walk out of it and do my retirement. So let's see, I've got 6 children, 10 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren. So they spend a lot of my free time. I do a lot of messing around with them, playing with them, taking them here and there, and just being their taxi cab driver and doing what they want to do. I do a lot of tinkering with cars yet. I still buy and sell a couple here and there when I can. It gets kind of hard to do, but it's kind of fun. I'm used to it.
That's great. So that was called, was it Smitty's?
Smitty's Auto Sales and Towing Service.
Okay, cool. Cool.
I started that in the late 80s, I think, maybe like it was 1989.
Huh.
It started out just part-time, and then it just turned into a full-time thing.
But then retirement didn't stick for you, and you came and joined us, huh?
Yeah, yep, I had to do something. It was getting kind of boring at home. It's nice here. I like it here. Everybody's nice. Get along with everybody. It's just a nice, fun environment here. I don't know, I enjoy being here.
Good, good. Well, and we've already appreciated your tinkering abilities, because I know you've tinkered with some things for us at Trinity. That's been really helpful. So yeah, that's great, great. Well, and Dave, you joined us, the end of May, but I want to say, Emma, you joined us as a baby. But now you're on staff. So there's a couple of different ways that you've joined Trinity here. But so when did you come on staff?
It was like maybe a month ago now, I want to say. Yeah. Almost a month at least. Yeah, I think it was like August something.
Okay, all right, but pretty recent, yeah. But yeah, a long history at Trinity too. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself so people can make all this connection with you.
Right. Well, I've been in Mason City my entire life. I've grown up at the church. I went to Sugar Plum when I was younger, And I remember being here for Sunday school and, you know, confirmation, I was confirmed here. I don't know, I feel like I've known the church as like a second home my entire life. So also being able to join like the staff was really exciting for me, especially because a lot of the people on the staff I already get along with pretty well, I'd say. So I have fun when I'm here. I like the people I work with, which is a big thing for me. I like to have a friendly work environment, which this environment is very friendly. So that's good. What else? I like to draw a lot in my free time. I like to listen to lots of music. If I'm not at work, I'm probably driving around listening to music or playing games or with my friends or family, because, you know, when I see them, it's not as often as usual, but, you know, COVID's kind of brought that down a little bit. But other than that, I don't do too much.
Oh, well, it's fun for us to have you on staff, although I have to say it makes me feel old because I still think of you as a little toddler, you know, when you were on Trinity. But it's been fun to watch you grow up, and then especially exciting to have you on staff. So yeah. Oh, and do you want to say a little bit about, you know, who your dad is, so they make that connection too?
Of course. Sorry about that. My dad was former custodian David Sjostrand. He was here how long? That's a good question. I mean, he was here before for at least 5 or more years, and then he left, went to the school, and then he came back, and now here I am a few years later.
It's in your DNA, yeah.
Yep. I got a lot of training just walking around with him when he worked here, just, you know, seeing what he does. He would teach me all these things. So it's like, I feel like I have a pretty good idea of how to do most of the stuff.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah.
You know, we often say that the facilities team, our custodians, you guys are often kind of the front line of hospitality and hosting and greeting people. And also, you know, we have this massive building that in many ways you kind of help us keep clean and keep running smoothly, keep coordinated with things that need to be fixed, you know, to bring people in. What's it been like for both of you, having been, I mean, I know, Emma, you've been around the building, but maybe not with the expanded building. What's it been like getting used to this big old building and interacting with our people as they're coming back now here at this point? What's that been like for each of you?
Well, it's been pretty cool. I like to walk around and find different compartments and checking things out. I'm getting kind of used to everything now. It was kind of hard at first finding out where everything was at and how to get here and there, but it's getting a lot better, and now I can get around pretty good, and it's pretty nice being here. Everything's turning out pretty good.
Well, I mean, I still kind of adventure around every once in a while because certain parts about the church are definitely different, but a lot of it is pretty much the same to me. And like, I remember everything exactly how it was. So it's like cool to walk around and see like, oh yeah, that's different now. And like, just all the changes it's had. So, and being able to interact with people, especially now when a lot more people are coming back, it's nice. It just feels kind of normal. So
yeah.
That's
it's a great way to put it. Yeah, I agree.
Kind of normal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Dave, do you have a favorite part of the job? Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, part of it's probably just like knowing when I come here, there's always going to be someone to interact with. Like, I'm normally like every once in a while, it's like, okay, we're off on our own doing our own things, but like eventually you find somebody that's like, oh, hey, how's it going? It's like nice to just always have somebody around. So just like being by yourself.
Dave, anything from you that you like about the job?
I don't really have any special one part of it, but I like helping people. That's probably the funnest part, being here to help somebody that needs something. Somebody's always asking me to do something. It's fun to do it, you know, getting stuff all ready for everybody. And it's, I don't know, I just like helping people. It's, oh, I like helping doing the weddings and the funerals. Those are kind of cool. You know, just being there for somebody to do things for. I don't know, that's about it.
Well, that's something that we've already appreciated about you, that, you know, if we ask either one of you to help, that you are always so at the ready to do that. So thank you for that. And thank you. I think this is great news for the folks that are listening in here, to know that part of the pleasure that you have is interacting with the people and helping the people and getting to know them. So that's just more and more encouragement for everybody to seek you out and get a chance to know you one-on-one. So thanks so much for joining us here on this Zoom. Is there anything else you want to add, or otherwise we better let you get back to work here?
Well, thank you, and I appreciate being here. Yep, I'll always be here.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
the invitation.
All righty. Bye.
Bye. Well, that was fun. Gosh, to get a chance to know them. And but you know, I was thinking about what we were going to talk about today, and I realized that this is coffee with the pastors, but it's coffee alliteration. And we've got all these C things to talk about. So that's how I've organized it in my mind. We've got coffee, we've got custodians, but we've also got this thing, COVID, that we can't get rid of. We've got confirmation coming up. We've got the call committee. So I think we just got to get going on all of these C things that are happening in our lives here at church. And, you know, the one C that we just keep bumping up against is COVID, right? And the challenges that it keeps providing for us.
Yeah, that's really true. You know, though it is interesting, you know, this fall is so much different from last fall, just because of, I think, the change that vaccinations made. You know, it's allowed us to respond in maybe a different way than we did during the surge that happened, you know, a little less than a year ago, where we really had to scale back and close things down and that kind of thing. I think it's been helpful that even though numbers have risen here and the CDC guidelines changed last month, which caused our council to adapt what we were doing a little bit, to be able to just add masks in the building, which is really the only change that we've made since midsummer. We've now asked everybody, regardless of your vaccination status, to wear masks in the building because that's what the CDC and that's what public health folks are saying is going to be the most effective. It's definitely a pain. I mean, I don't think any of us really love wearing masks, right? I mean, it's not ideal, but it has felt better to me to be able to go, we just put masks on the building, we can do just about anything else that we really want to do.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of it, really. You know, you think about what we were not doing last fall because we were being cautious and didn't really know what we could or couldn't do, versus now it's like, I mean, we're rolling lefse. Yeah. You know, it's so exciting to just be able to do these kinds of things that we were so concerned about what we could and couldn't do last year, and weren't even getting into the church, you know, and trying to do ministry in a variety of different ways. And now it's like, let's do ministry, let's do what we want to do, and let's put a mask on to take care of everybody, really, you know, vaccinated, unvaccinated, folks that are immunocompromised. You know, I'm just mindful, kids, you know, just all of the ways that, you know, whatever this has affected folks, you know, we've just got to be careful with one another, but we can still be doing a lot of things.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good to get back to like mean, the last couple of weekends having 4 services and seeing people at all 4 services again, and having Sunday school now underway, and Wednesday night alive, even though we're kind of waiting on the meal for now, being able to do a lot of the other things, choir, confirmation in person, yeah, lefse rolling, even, even the new member banquet that we did a couple of weekends ago. We modified the way we did the food, but we could have a meal for those that were comfortable to come and do that, and just how great that is for those other needs we have about being together and being community together. I think that probably trumps just about anything, and it's just so nice to be able to do that. So even though we're not quite where we want to be, it definitely feels different than last fall. And I think, yeah, in terms of what we're trying to do as a community of faith, it seems really improved over where we've been. So, I think the congregation has done a fantastic job of wearing masks. We really need to congratulate our community for stepping up and doing that, and just taking that step. So it's been really good to see.
Yeah, well, like Emma said, it's kind of normal, right? And so that feels good, but like you say, it's the relationships, it's the fellowship that we're getting to have now that is so important. And I've just been so impressed with the congregation and their willingness to adapt for the sake of being together and supporting one another. All of these different examples, and for a lot of people just coming in and being so appreciative of the fact that we are being conscious, especially for kids, right? And making sure that families are safe, and that our young people can mingle and be with everybody of every age, but not be concerned about what that means. And even sometimes I feel like the space bubble, when we were socially distancing, it was like, oh, I need to keep a certain distance from you. And now I'm wearing a mask and I feel like, yeah, I can get up and I can have a conversation with you like we would normally do. So there's a lot.
That's the part that we missed, right? I mean, in before, I mean, not being able to have those connections in person. I think that's really well said. That's exactly what it's about. So.
Right. And like you said, the congregation has been so supportive and good about all of that I think, it really shows that we are a servant congregation. And that servanthood for the health and well-being of one another is being embraced in new ways we never expected, but are also important.
Right on. That's beautiful said. Yep.
Yeah. Which goes along with, talking about young people and things that are changing. Confirmation also coming up this weekend, but that's different. And tell us, I am aware, but not always into all of the details of how confirmation is looking this fall.
Yeah, so one of the kind of long-range strategic goals with confirmation the last couple of years has been to make a transition from what we have done for years and years at Trinity, which is have confirmation that first weekend in May, and switch it instead to the fall. A number of other churches have done this for years. I know we made that transition in my first churches to switch from the May confirmation to a fall or an October confirmation. And I think some of the reasoning for us here around that was, one, we wanted to make a better connection between the end of confirmation and high school ministry, which is, I think, a challenge in just about every church that celebrates confirmation as a part of their tradition. There's always been a piece of confirmation that ends up feeling, and I don't think we mean it to, but it just does, ends up feeling a little bit like graduation from faith formation, which is not helpful, right? Because as we talk about with our core values here, faith formation is something that goes on your whole life. But because I think of that intense nature of confirmation, it's a focused time. It's a little bit like, you sort of kiddingly call it like boot camp for the faith. You're really intense for a few years, learning some things, doing some really intentional discipleship, and then it ends with a beautiful celebration. But then that can sometimes cause some people to kind of fully disengage from their life in the community of faith. And so one of the goals in switching to the fall is to provide a little bit smoother on-ramp to what high school ministry looks like. And it's very different than confirmation, but no less important. And so there's a sense that if we move confirmation from the spring of the freshman year to the fall of the freshman year, then you have that full freshman year to kind of get plugged into what the high school is doing. And so this was something we thought about a couple of years ago. We were actually supposed to move last year's freshman class, this year's sophomore class last fall, but of course a year ago was when we were really having to pull back because COVID was spiking here. And so we just thought, no, let's delay and let's just see if we can still have that in-person confirmation celebration with them. Well, things kind of lingered on into the spring. It was summertime before we really got to a point that we felt like we could do that safely. And so we made the decision to go ahead and still do that last year's 9th grade group in the fall, but it would be the fall of their 10th grade year by now, right? But at the same time, we want the next freshman class to get on course, get on schedule. And so we're going to do them this fall as well. So the result of this is that we will have 2 confirmation celebrations at Trinity, one with the 10th graders this year, one with the 9th graders this year, both this fall. The 10th graders are this coming weekend, the 10:45 service. And then the 9th graders this year will be in November. So a couple months from now. And so it's a lot of confirmation, especially in the midst of some big transitions with our youth staff, having the pastor to faith formation now, that we're not the pastor to spiritual growth. Used to be the youth and family pastor. We're calling it now the pastor for spiritual growth. That position's open as we're in the midst of a call process. And then we also just brought on a new high school and young adult youth director and a new middle school director. And so we're bringing all these people kind of in the midst of doing all this confirmation, and we're going to get it all done. But it's definitely a transition change time in the midst of it. But I do think it'll be the right move going forward as we try to figure out what's best for people, best for our youth in particular and their faith development. So so that's kind of what's happened. So if you're sitting in the congregation this fall and you're like, wait a second, we just celebrated confirmation, why are we doing it again? That's why, because we're actually doing 2 of them. And then we'll be on that schedule of having our 9th graders be confirmed in the fall of their freshman year every year going forward. That's the plan.
Yeah, I mean, we knew it was going to be awkward to make that transition from May to the fall, but it's just especially awkward because we got all of this going on. But it like you say, it's also to a certain extent really beautiful, the way that we are, the purpose of it being that we were flowing into being in high school and being a part of a youth group and continuing faith formation. And so rather than being done, it's just, you get confirmed probably October when we get a real schedule, the end of October for Reformation, being a good Lutheran here, you've confirmed your faith, and now you're going to flow right into continuing that lifelong faith formation, and how beautiful it is that it's happening as we're bringing on Christian Carlson in our new position and Carol Detmer in the middle school position. So lots of moving parts, but yet with the long range vision for what it would be for the benefit of our young people.
Yeah, and to have, again, to draw on some of our giftedness in the congregation, just to make note that Marcy Colvin, who's retired out of our middle school, high school position before we kind of revamped it, is going to help us with this first group here this week, and has been helping us because she knows how this works and she knows these kids. And so in this little interim time, as our new staff was coming on board, she stepped up and has been just an enormous asset in helping get this first group to have a good confirmation celebration with their families.
Yeah, well, it will definitely be an opportunity to celebrate, won't it? Confirmation in September and the 150th anniversary in October, and confirmation again in November, and all that that means for us as we think about for generations to come, right? And and living that out in so many beautiful ways. So, and you mentioned, in the midst of all the transitions, also that the pastor to spiritual growth. That is a big part of this as well. So any updates on the call committee and where we're at with that?
Yeah, so we've taken a pretty aggressive approach to the call. Maybe that's not the right word, but we've gotten at it, I'll say. And with the help and the support of the synod, really been able to, even before Pastor Kevin left our staff, we were already having some initial meetings with our interim bishop, Andrea de Groot-Nesdal, getting the call committee organized back yet in the summer. And we've met several times already to work on the ministry site profile, which is basically the paperwork that you submit that shows what are the gifts that you are looking for, what's the kind of ministry that you are calling this new person to. It gives a lot of information about your congregation and your community, your demographics, those kinds of things. All the kind of information that really helps a candidate to be pastor look and go, am I a fit for this congregation? Do I have the right gifts to match? And it does a beautiful job of creating some very specific kind of descriptions that help people discern that and help the synod as they play. I always say, I think the synod office often in our system, in our denomination, is kind of a matchmaker. The congregation decides who they're going to call. They discern that. They have the power to interview and to ultimately call those that they wish to. And the synod's role is really to kind of be matchmaker, to help find people that fit what we are looking for as candidates to interview within our system. So the first step is to get this profile finished. It is actually going before the council this week for their approval. And then we're going to share a summary of that profile with the wider congregation so that everyone who is interested can kind of see what is the profile that we've put together as we put that paperwork out. And then the next step is to submit that, and we then will receive some names through the system and through our synod to begin to look at it and consider for interview. So we're really moving along here in a hurry, which I know for you and me is good news. But at the same time, it's always such an amazing process, even doing the paperwork, the amount of prayer and discernment and really great conversation that happens among people. We have a phenomenal call committee, put together a diverse group from across the congregation, represents all kinds of different sort of subgroups, I think, within the church. And they have just had some amazing conversations about the future of Trinity's mission and ministry, along with the council. We've been talking for a while about some big things that we sense are in the horizon now for us as a church, including thinking about how we as a congregation come alongside and work alongside maybe some other congregations in our region and beyond, using some of the new technology that we have and really thinking beyond even just our own congregation's walls that way. And they are just doing a fantastic job of, I think, thinking that through and really then asking that question, well, what kind of leader do we need in this role of the pastor of spiritual growth to help lead us in that and facilitate and organize us and empower others? So it's exciting, it's work, but there's a lot of energy and really excitement around that as we move into these next stages.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with the call committee and their work already. Not only their timeliness, because the last two calls were year long, and so it's really exciting that they're moving quickly, but more so just their openness to thinking about what is the future of Trinity and who best can help us go into that, and the diversity that's represented. a person that has a long time history and knows the ins and outs of leadership, to somebody who grew up in this church but doesn't even live in Mason City and is primarily part of our online congregation, that are new, and folks that, you know, have a lot of history and different ages and perspectives. So yeah, I think it will be exciting, because I do think they are a representative of who we are as an emerging congregation in this new time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how wonderful that they're going to provide some leadership for us in the midst of that. So yeah,
Absolutely.
great.
Yep.
Well, hopefully maybe we can get I'm hoping that maybe we'll have an opportunity to have the chair of the call committee, Ethan Miller, join us maybe in one of these Zoom times too, to tell us where things are going. But you know, the one thing that really holds us all together is the idea of change, that change just keeps happening and we keep going with it. And I think you've shared some words about liminal times. I've shared some thoughts about liminal times, but do you want to speak to that a little bit? I've got my images, maybe you've got your images of what this time feels like that we're living into as individuals and as a congregation.
Yeah, I found that image of liminal spaces or liminal times to be really helpful, and I know a lot of others have too. I was reading a book recently by Susan Beaumont called I think the title is something like "Leading When You Have No Idea where you're going," which I just love that title. It's such a beautiful. I think it's a title that so many leaders, not just in the church but in all kinds of fields, really resonate with. Where while we continue to be try to be as clear and as directed as possible in all that we do, we also have to recognize that we're in a time where there's just a lot about the future that's unclear. And if we're not admitting that, we're probably not really in touch with reality. And so in that book, she talks about, Susan Beaumont talks about liminal times, and the word liminal comes from a Latin word that means literally threshold. And it is the space, you think of like the threshold of a door, it is the space between one place and another. And she talks about how in the ancient world, sometimes that threshold in a door wasn't a nice wooden piece like we think about, but it's a big stone that you have to step up onto and then pass across to get from one room to another, to get from outside to inside a dwelling. And how there's a lot of times there are these times in life, or times in organizations' lives, or in a collective life like we're living right now, where you're kind of in this liminal space that you are not where you were before, right? And I think we're certainly sensing that in so many ways. We're not where we were before, and yet we're not quite yet into where we're headed. We're kind of in this threshold, this liminal time. And the thing about liminal times, I think, is that, as we were talking about with the staff yesterday, a lot of us don't love them. They're not comfortable. They don't feel good to be in. And you often have this urge to try to get out of them as quickly as you can. But there are some really wise spiritual thinkers. Richard Rohr is one of them, and a lot of people know that name. But Richard Rohr wrote this beautiful devotional, and I shared a piece of it with the staff yesterday, where he basically says, these are the places where God does God's best work, and that we should seek them out and try to stay in these liminal places as long as we can. You know, and I read that, I'm like, why? Oh, that's, you know, but there's a deeper, I think, wisdom in that, to say, as uncomfortable as it can be to be in these in-between kind of times, this is often where new life is born and really creative, good things come. And just to trust that, and to trust that God is in the midst of those times, and that you won't be in them forever. You know, they're liminal for a reason, that you will not stay on the threshold. You will eventually get into the new place. And that's really hopeful, I think, and a good message in the midst of what we're living in. And COVID, I think, you know, in terms of our ministry and some of the changes that you've lifted up and that we've been talking about, it just seems to fit. And I know you've talked a lot about, I mean, you've talked about liminal spaces for years, so this is not a new concept at all for you, I know.
Yeah. I mean, I think about it in several different ways. You know, most frequently, I think about it just in terms of all of my work in death and dying, and how that space between, you know, the life that a person once had and the passage into eternal life. You know, you're often standing on that threshold, and you're standing on that threshold listening to family stories, and you're standing on that threshold having no idea of the time frame. And I can't tell you how many times I've said, you know, this is God's timing. None of us know timing, right? And it feels like, yeah, we're on this threshold. It's God's timing. You know, none of us know, you know, how long we're going to be hanging out on this threshold. But it can be a very beautiful and a very holy and sacred place to be. You know, more recently, though, when we were talking about this, I was thinking about the old tradition of when you get married, that the husband would pick up the bride and carry her over the threshold to begin their new life. And I thought, oh, you know, the church is the bride of Christ. And there's something very beautiful about recognizing that we've been picked up from where we were, and that we're being carried over this threshold into this new thing. And so rather than it feeling like, you know, we got to figure out how not to stub our toe and trip into it, that we're being carried over the threshold. And that to me has just helped me to go, oh, thank you, Lord, because I'm in your arms. This church is in your hands, and here we go together.
That's beautiful. Wow, what a great, yes, a great use of that. We should call Susan Beaumont. She needs to edit her book to include that image. That's beautiful. Yeah, we aren't just walking through it on our own, but we are being carried. I love that. That's beautiful, grace-filled.
Yeah. I say that not because Kirk carried me over the threshold when we got married, though. Don't let anybody misunderstand. Yeah.
I don't think I carried Molly over any threshold either. You know? I don't think that happened.
Oh, but it is good news to know that God carries us through all of these changes. Oh, did you hear that? Carry. There's another C. All right, we've got it. We've got custodians and COVID and confirmation and call committee and changes and being carried. I think we made full circle in this coffee alliteration here.
All coming together.
All coming together. So, all right. Well, thank you, Pastor Dan, for joining me for coffee here, and for everybody else who has been with us for this time. We're so grateful for all of you and for the ways that you continue to care. Another C word, care for the congregation and for one another. And so blessings to all of you.
Nice. Thanks. Take care.